gleam and glow. Make your power shine. Make the clock reverse. Bring back what once was mine. What once was mine.
Nice. Hey dads, 2010's Tangled cemented Rapunzel's place in the Disney princess universe. But how does it stand up today, almost 10 years after its release, with a new crop of young viewers, including my own daughter, Abby, who's going on 5 now? And also, hey Disney, what's going on with this evil stepmother trope that you're still cashing in on? Is that not getting a little bit old and tired? We're going to talk about that too. Tangled is a movie that we watched at my house. I think we might have even seen this in the theaters even before my daughter Abby was born in 2014. And I remember thinking to myself, what are they going to do with this character Rapunzel, who really doesn't have a lot of interest in the original fairy tales when you think about it? Not enough to support a feature film. But hey, it's Disney, so sprinkle a little fairy dust in that hair, slap on true love, lost royalty, misused magic a la Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast, and now you got something. And it all comes together here pretty well. Remember, this is the movie that Disney put out right after Bolt, and that movie had a much more complicated plot and relied a lot on backstory in the first few minutes and turned a few people off because of that. And one of the reasons Bolt, which is a good movie, you should check it out, isn't a classic today. But Tangled sort of is. They seem to have learned from Bolt to keep it simple. Use what works, and the princess formula that's employed here just does. I could tell my daughter was buying into this movie in the first couple of minutes. She just recognized these characters without them being old and boring. She recognized the little lost princess. She recognized the evil old witch / stepmother. We'll get into that. And she was hooked from the beginning. The magic flower we've seen in Beauty and the Beast, but here it is again. Now it's gold instead of red. It doesn't cry out as a rehash of old movies because Rapunzel has her one defining characteristic, all that hair. Still, there are some problems here to be aware of as parents. Rapunzel herself has been criticized for being a magic blonde person. When it becomes cut and is no longer magical, that it just becomes brown, brunette, it doesn't help. It is problematic, actually, in 2019. We don't want kids adoring beautiful blonde looks and thinking that being brown-haired and brown-eyed perhaps is somehow less magical, especially with a younger child who's not going to focus, like maybe you or I will, on the hero's journey, which takes place here. They're going to focus on the magic hair. They're going to focus on the visible things that they can gravitate to and want. The original fairy tale has no lost princess, no magic powers. Someone had to think of it to put it in. So someone could have thought of something a little more contemporary in its approach to its messaging for today's young girls. To its credit, this movie does not wallow in these messages for better or for worse. Rapunzel as a character is too smart to fall for Flynn Rider's cheap come-ons and is not taken with his physical beauty, as it were. She is in the end, but it's only after he reveals a little bit about himself and reveals that his name is Eugene Fitzherbert, for instance, and not Flynn Rider, which is a name he read in a storybook. So he does as much growing as Rapunzel, maybe even a little more. He, for instance, is always very critical of how he's being portrayed on his wanted posters. He is upset that they don't get his nose right and that his beauty is not properly appreciated. He comes around in the end to understand that beauty is only skin deep. And I think that's enough message for especially 5-year-olds watching this movie. So kudos to the Disney screenwriters for acknowledging the old Disney princess universe and confronting them head on here, at least in the romantic story, and undermining them and transcending them a little bit. And it is entertaining and it is fun and it is sort of magical in its own right if you are prepared to make sure your kid doesn't come away with some outdated ideas about beauty and privilege and who those things apply to. But there is one trope in this movie that sparked a bit of a conversation in my house, and that's one that my wife occasionally brings to my attention when we're watching a movie, and it comes up a lot more than I was conscious of until she pointed it out. The evil stepmother, or the evil adult female who in a disciplinary role. In this movie, it's Mother Gothel, who is in the original fairy tale, but is just an old woman in that tale. Here, she's an evil, restrictive, demeaning witch who's right out of the days of Cinderella, or even the old woman with the apple in Snow White, and more recently the busybody, bossy kangaroo mom in Horton Hears a Who. It's not Disney, but no reason that it had to be a mom. Absolutely none. When you have one or the other parent in the house who is the bringer of pain, as it were, and that happens to be the mom, it creates a certain amount of unevenness in our 4 or 5-year-olds' minds, especially about just female empowerment and its depiction as unattractive somehow. The message here, I think, is that when we're getting spoon-fed, and when our kids are getting spoon-fed these negative images of the disciplinarian in the family, we have to be careful and make sure that there's a balancing act going on in our actual home. When the movie is turned off, Dad has to step in and be equally responsible for discipline and rule setting and limit setting. Rapunzel's real mother in this film, the queen, I don't even think she speaks in this film. The one that Rapunzel dreams of returning to, the one that makes no demands on her, and the one that accepts her as she is equally just mythical and hard to obtain and impossible to be if you're going to have a functioning household and a functioning family and a well-adjusted kid. So that message, in conjunction with the evil stepmom, really can have a bit of a negative impact on a kid's mind if you don't balance it out with a little bit of a conversation afterwards. Maybe, Dad, you should take part in that conversation too. I know a lot of dads are not specifically attuned to the music in their kids' animated features, but here it's all very entertaining. It's kind of a cut above. From the tune that Rapunzel sings to activate her magic hair, flower gleam and grow, which my little girl sings to herself all the time now, to the music in the tavern scene where Flynn and Rapunzel encounter a group of ruffians who sing about their lost dreams, which is really entertaining and kind of touching, actually, and unexpected, to the song that Mother Gothel sings to placate Rapunzel into staying with her in the tower, Mother Knows Best. All of it very catchy, all of it very well done, and I just wanted to shout out a little bit about it. Fast forward score is low, although with a 4-year-old going on 5, as my daughter is now, you will be tempted to hold the remote at times when the characters are in danger, in peril. It does get intense here and there, but nothing that my daughter couldn't handle very easily. There is a repeat bit of business with a frying pan, a bit of cartoon violence with a frying pan that got a little bit repetitious. And I did notice that Abby was getting a little bit slap happy after this film. I was getting hit with books and shoes a little bit more than normal, so I could have done without that, but it's nothing that a little explanation about the difference between cartoon violence and real-world violence couldn't handle. Daddy's Reason to Watch. This movie features the voice talents of Ron Perlman from Hellboy and a TV version of Beauty and the Beast, if you recall. Brad Garrett, who was in Everybody Loves Raymond, or Richard Kiel from the 007 series. But I'm going to go with Zachary Levi, who recently starred as Shazam in the hit movie Shazam, and won us over here as the voice of Flynn Rider after a while. Very well done. So I do recommend Tangled for your family viewing night, albeit with the proviso that it may come with food for thought for the ensuing conversations you may be having with your daughter about her own self-image and notions about attractiveness and so on that you might be having with her anyway in the coming years and maybe many times. So why not start here with Tangled, a movie that's just enjoyable enough to make those conversations that much more approachable. So check it out, and check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, at our website. I'll put the links down below. Please do hit the like button on this video and all our videos if you'd be so kind. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do hit the subscribe button and the bell notifications to be alerted to future episodes. We are eager to bring them to you, but until then, I'm Tom. This is Daddy Daughter Movie Night, and we'll see you soon.